Yeah, forgive me. I wasn't. I should have been uploading to do the for the ticker, because down there it's saying chapter 11, but we're actually up to chapter 13. So it's because I just decided to do everything at once. So if you're looking at the ticker, forgive that, right? And that's for the last two actually. I just realized that just now. So, by the way, I am Juice Wanna. This is Old York Gritty Grand Strings. You can catch me on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitch, Twitter. I'm everywhere, right? Don't forget to hit that like button. See it right there? Hit that like button. Yeah, so I can get the love. But don't forget to also hit that subscribe and that notification bell so you can know when new content is being uploaded. And don't hesitate to ask questions and leave comments. All I answer and I respond to all comments and requests. If you want to know specific things or you want me to get more detail, if I wasn't as detailed as you know you felt like, or but you feel like you want more insight on, forgive me. I'll address all that and share. Don't be afraid to share this information. Let the world know the truth. One thing you should never be afraid to do, letting the world know the truth. All right. So it's chapter 13. The Master's Carpet, wise so called. The Masonic emblems, forms of the lodge it supports, covering, furniture, ornaments, lights, jewels, situation. Mr. Burton. Now, as you know, Mr. Burton, he's, a Freemason. He's talking to his son and he's letting him know through this communication, he's letting him know what Freemasonry is, right? So, having now disposed of all the interior ceremonies and having satisfactory accounts where we at some satisfactory accounts for the existence of each one of them as a Masonic rite. The next objective demanding our attention is in the regular order of the large work is the discussion of the symbols and emblems of the master's carpet, or of the master emblems on the master's carpet, forgive me. In the early days of speculative Freemasonry, when its pagan philosophies was only yet in its infancy, and long before it carried itself so haughtily and defiantly as it does today, the symbols and emblems of the different degrees used to be rudely sketched with chalk or charcoal on certain parts of the large room floor. On the night of initiation, as the particular spots was always reserved for the exclusive use of worshipful masters, it came to be called the master's carpet. And from that time, the name has long since been applied to all Masonic emblems in general, as well as the chart and manuals in which they are now usually delineated. Forgive me. The symbols of entered apprentice degree to which our attentions must now be mainly directed form of the lodge is supported carving furniture ornaments, lights, jewels, situations, and dedications. And like all the preceding ceremonies of institutions, every one of these emblems, without any exception, has been borrowed from the ancient mysteries or the secret worships of Baal in their former positions and the idolatrous system is distinctly pointed out in the monitors and standard works of the institution. On the night of this institution, however, the candidate is given a far different explanation of these emblems by the worshipful master. Freemasonry is but a wicked system of sworn deception, fraud, and cunning craftiness from the beginning to end. And hence, the promoters of the anti Christian philosophies are always very carefully at first to keep the real meaning of its pretended mysteries in the background, or at least until such time as the initiate has been taken the Master Mason obligation, when it is presumed he is bound so fast that he dare not revolt against the terrible bondage into which perhaps he has been unsuspectingly ensnared. His peculiar features of this peculiar feature of the Masonic institution furnishes one more proof of its pagan origin, have been borrowed like all the other elements of corruption in a direct line of the ancient mysteries, as relating to the manner in which a similar practice of fraud, pardon me here, and deception was carried out in the ancient institutions. We have the following truthful statement from the pen in that eminent Mason, Dr. Gregory Oliver, in his History of Institutions, page 80, he says, the mysteries being connected with the services of religion and miserable jugglers who profited by magnifying the absurd fears of superstition carried on the deception of its utmost extent to all the latest moments of their powers. Now, if you understand what he's saying is basically, this system that required the stars, that required the studying of the stars in order for them to make it even more than it was, they granded it, added more to it, more elements to it, so that way when it happened, it's connected to these grander elements that are all, made up, right, of masonry, derive their powers and profit from a similar source in precisely the same manner. In between both classes of hierophants, there is also this furthermore coincidence that in the Masonic institution, the deception of knowingly practiced and in its full extent We will now examine these different emblems in detail, representing each one precisely as it is on the chart or carpet, and giving its true origin and meaning it conveys to the religious philosophy of Masonry, as furnished us by the authorized teachers of the order, the form of the lodge. All right. The form of the lodge rituals was learned that the form of the lodge is that of an oblong square. Let me see. Oblong square extending from east to west. Pardon me here. Right? Extending east to where we at? Extending east to west. Embracing every climb between the North and South. Handbook, page 92. And Dr. Mackey, in referring to the universal form of Masonic lodges, explains in this manual of the lodge, page 44. There is a particular fitness in the theory which is really only making the Masonic lodge a symbol of the world, and in general admin raison, right, page 76, it is further asserted that the double cub form is an expensive emblem of the united powers of light and darkness and the creation, right? Also, in the symbolism of Freemasonry, page 102, we read the form of the Masonic Lodge is said to be a parallelogram or oblong square. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Oblong square. Its greatest length being from east to west. It's beneath from north to south. And again, on page 104, it states that the Masonic Lodge is therefore a symbol of the world. The reason why this symbol is made, it used in the Masonic philosophy, is given in the footnotes of the same page, where it said that the two vulgar and untight eye of heaven or sky above the earth seen to be extensive with the earth and to take the same form, enclosing a cubical space, of which the earth was the base of heaven or sky, the upper surface. And Dr. Mackey further added that it is in this notion of the universe of the Masonic symbol refers. The large room then is brought before us as a symbol of the universe, governed by the sun in its cubical form, expressed in the language of the rituals, is made to represent the united powers of light and darkness, and the constant conflict which is supposed to be always going on between them. Or, in other words, the large room is the real Masonic heaven where the God of nature, the God of the universe, always presides, where his symbol is always displayed, where his worship is always practiced, and when the God When the good Mason dies, he is simply transferred from this lower heaven or this lodge below to the mountain Olympus of the craft called the Grand Lodge above. The supports of the lodge. In reference, this symbol of masonry ritual gives the following explanation. The Masonic Lodge, bound only by the extreme points of the compass in the highest heavens as the last emblem, the lowest depths of the central abyss is said to be the metaphorical support of the three great pillars. Right? See right here. Okay. And as I said before, three great pillars, denominations, wisdom, strength, and beauty. Guma Oz Dubar, as they like you with Prodigy from Mob Deep. I know he mentioned it. So this is just to say, like, whenever you hear like, the 5%ers, they would tell you God, Guma Oz Dubar, God, right? Wisdom, strength, and beauty. That's what makes up God. Right, the above figures represent support as given on the chart, and their positions are explained as follows by the Masonic text books. Manuals of the Lodge by Mackey, page 646. Of these columns of wisdom is situated in the east part of the lodge, and is represented by the worshipful master. The column of strength is situated in the part of the situated in the west part of the lodge, and it is represented by the senior warden, and the column of beauty is situated in the south part of the lodge, and it is represented by the junior warden. And again, in the tradition of Freemasonry by Pearson, page 55, the emblematic foundation or support of the Masonic Lodge are three pillars demonstrated wisdom, strength, and beauty. And now our next inquiry must be, where did the Masonic fathers of 1717 find these pillars? And why are these thus represented in Freemasonry? The answer comes from the Grand East, and from its infallible ruling, there is and there can be no appeal. Traditions of Freemasonry by Pearson, page 56, is the ancient mysteries, these three pillars, represented in the great emblematic trade of deity. As with us, they represent the three principal officers of the lodge and the three corresponding pillars of the Hindu mysteries were also known by the name of wisdom, strength, and beauty, and placed east, west, and south, crowned with three human heads, as have it then on the evidence of one of the best, if not actually the best informed Mason in America. With this emblem of the three pillars has not only been borrowed from the mysteries of Hinduistan, but that they actually retain the same name and position in the Masonic institution that they formerly did or do now in the secret institution of Brahma. In remembering the wisdom of Solomon, the strength of Hiram, king of Tyre, and the beauty and the design of the work of Hiram, the widow's son, we can easily understand the base cunning which prompted the adoption of these worthies as the first grand masters of the system, and better to hide its pagan origin and to enable its infidel founders to carry out their base deception with greater facility. But the three pillars, we are further informed, refer directly to the three principals officers of the lodge, and hence to understand the true meaning of the symbol still more clearly, it must be also examined and in that connection. The three principal officers. The figure on the following page represents the three principal officers of the lodge, standing their respective stations. The worshipful master in the east, the senior warden in the west, and the junior warden in the south. And now the question naturally arises, why are these officers thus situated? What do they really represent? And whence did the Masonic revivalists borrow the idea which at first led to this particular form of lodge government? As we can see right here in the picture, we have the east. I'm covering the south. No, you can see it now, the south. All right. And then we have the west, right? The Brahma, Vishnu, and Siva of Masonry, right? Right, so it goes. In the symbolism of Freemasonry, page 106, we read the three principals officers of the lodge are, it is needed to say, situated in the east and west and south. Now, bearing in mind that the lodge is a symbol of the world or the universe, the reference of these three officers and the sun after its rising, its setting, and the meridian height must at once suggest itself. And in the Freemason's Guide by Sickles, page 66, this direct reference to the sun god is further asserted. He says, the worshipful master represents the sun and its rising. The senior warden represents the sun and its setting. And the junior warden represents the sun and at mediums, right? In every symbol ceremony, the emblem of Freemasonry, we meet nothing but the sun god, the ancient initiations, the ancient mystery, the oldest secret worship of Baal, but past Grandmaster Mackie, in referring to the Hindu mysteries, whence their particular Masonic emblems has been revived, and showing the coincidences between those mysteries and the Masonic institutions, gives the following copious explanation as the reason why three principals lodge three principal large offices of masonry are placed east, west, and south. Symbolism of Freemasonry, page 116, 117. And the Brahmatical institutions of Hindustan, which are among the earliest that have been transmitted to us and may almost be considered as the cradle of I'm believing that's cradle, right? Let me see here. Cradle of all the other subsequent ages in various countries. The ceremonies were performed in vast caverns, and remains of some of which are Salsit and Elfrintine and a few other places will give a spectacular but a very inadequate idea of the extent and splendor of these ancient Indian lodges. The interior of the cavern of institutions was lighted by immemorable lamps, and there sat in the east and west, in the south, the principal hierophant or explainers of the mysteries as the representatives of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. Now, Brahma was the supreme deity of the Hindus, borrowed or derived from the sun god of their Theban ancestors. The Vishnu and Shiva were but manifestations of his attributes. And again, on page 108, we learn from the Indian pantheon that when the sun rises in the east, he is Brahma. When he gains his medium, he is Shiva. And when he sets in the west, he is Vishnu. Now, if this is not the exact picture of Freemasonry in its symbolic teachings in reference to the sun or the sun god, as its pagan worship, then there is no use in trying to understand the real meaning of words. In the Hindu mysteries, the three principal officers who conducted the institution interactions, right? My fault. Okay. In the Hindu mysteries, the three principal officers who conducted the initiation sat in the east, west, and south and represented the sun god Brahma in his three principal situations: at risings, at medium, and at setting. In the Masonic mysteries, the three principal offices are situated in like manner east, west, and south, and represents precisely the very same sun god. Okay. The worshipful master, as we are assured above, representing the sun in the east, and senior warden, the sun in the west, and junior warden, and the sun in the south. And hence, it must unquestionably follow that the worshipful master and the Masonic Lodge is but another name for the Brahma of the sun worship of Hindustan, the senior warden, but another name of Vishnu, and the junior warden, but another name for Shiva. It could not be possible for masonry to establish a clearer coincidence, nor could any stronger proof be added to identify the secret religious philosophies of the Masonic system with the ancient secret sun or Baal worship of pagan mythology. But let us hear once more what past Grandmaster Pearson has to say in relation to this subject, alluding to the three Masonic pillars: wisdom, strength, and beauty in the Hindu mysteries, and their direct reference to Brahma, or the sun god of Hindustan, he goes on to explain. In the East, as the pillar of wisdom, this deity, i.e., the sun god, was called Brahma. In the West, as a pillar of strength, Vishnu. In the South, as a pillar of beauty, and Shiva, and Siva, and hence in the Indian initiations, the representative of Brahma was seated in the east, that of Vishnu in the west, and Siva in the south. A very remarkable coincidence with the practice of ancient masonry. And then on the difference between the Bremen lodges of Hindustan and the Masonic lodges of England and America is that instead of the name Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, found in the former Freemasonry, used the term worshipful master, senior warden, and junior warden. The ceremonies are precisely the same, and precisely the same. Position of the Hermaphrodites are the same, the duties the same, and the only difference is the change of name. And as we are informed elsewhere, this arises from change of country. The covering of the lodge in regards to this symbol of Masonic ritual explains that the covering of the lodge is no less than that clouded cantaloupe of starry, decaded, decaded, decked heavens, where all good Masons hope at last to arrive by the aid of that theological ladder which Jacob in his vision saw extended from earth to heaven. Handbook, page 93. This symbol was also derived from the ancient mysteries and has direct reference to the old sun worship of Sabian and of antiquity, and of abundant, and is abundantly proven by the following reference to both the canopy and ladders of the Masonic textbooks. In the manuals of the lodge by Mackey, page 40, right, tells you right here, right, the lodge continues throughout this degree to be presented in the initiate as a symbol of the world, and hence its covering, it's figuratively supposed to be the clouded cantaloupe on which the host of stars is represented. The mystical ladder, which is here, refers to the symbol that was widely diffused among the religious antiquities, i.e., the ancient mysteries. Whereas in masonry, it is always supposed to consist of 7 steps, because 7 was the sacred number. And some of the ancient mysteries, the 7 steps represented the 7 planets, and then the sun was the top most. And then, yeah, again, the symbolism of Freemasonry, page 117, 118. The lodge is a representative of the world, is of course supposed to have no other roof than the heavens. This mystical ladder, which connects the ground floor of the lodge with its roof or coverings, is another important and interesting link which binds with one common chain the symbolism and ceremonies of Freemasonry and the symbolism and rites of the ancient institutions. And Pearson's referring to this same symbol of Jacob's ladder and this tradition of Freemasonry, page 50, uses the following language. In the ladder, we find another remarkable coincidence in the use of the same symbol in the Masonic institutions and the ancient mysteries to incalculate the same idea. I have a strong desire to emphasize every word of these extracts, but in the absence of italics and with calmness, right? um with calmness, possibly under the circumstance, I will just remark and do so without any qualifications whatever, that it would be impossible to conceive how the identity of Freemasonry with the old Baal or sun worship of the mysteries could be expressed in any stronger or plainer language than it is here affirmed in these questions. Furniture, light, jewels. It is only necessary to refer very briefly to these symbols and in this collective form because they have been discussed somewhat extensively already, and it has been shown that with one single exception, the Holy Scripture, they all refer to the worshipful master or the representation of the sun god or grand architect of the universe of Freemasonries. So you see, he becomes again the pastor. You know, he's the one who's given the word, right? There are 3 articles of furniture in every Masonic lodge, as heretofore explained on page 123. The Holy Bible, square and compass, the square being dedicated to the master and the compass to the craft. There are 3 lights, right? There are 3 lights, 3 burning tapers, or 3 tallows candles arranged in a triangle form, as it's the above cut, and representing also the sun, moon, and master of the lodge. And there are 3 immovable jewels, the square, level, and plumb. Again, referring to the 3 principal offices or the sun god and his 3 separate manifestations in the east, west, and south, respectively. No matter which way you turn in masonry or what emblem you investigate, you cannot get outside of the three influence of sun worship. In reference to the symbol of the light or the three burning tapers, the Lodge book explains as follows. Manuals of the Lodge by Mackey, page 51. The three lights, like the three principles, offer the three principles supports refer to undoubtedly the three principal stations of the sun. It's rising in the east, its medium in the south, and its setting in the west. Thus, the symbol of the lodge is typically of the world, continues to be preserved. Now, as the worshipful master in his own proper person represents the sun, and we hear that too. You know, we think about the 5% nation. You go, you know, the sun, moon, and stars, right? Principles of the three support represents the sun. Therefore, it follows as an undisputable fact that all these various symbolisms are absorbed in the three, in that in are directly personated by the master, who is therefore the worshipful representative of the sun god in the Masonic philosophy, the one chief object of veneration and reverence, the symbol of the god of masonry. Right? The ornaments. Right? So you see it right here. I don't have to take myself away. We see that right there. Okay. In relations to this symbol, the Masonic ritual declares that the ornaments of the ornaments of the lodge are Masonic pavements and the indent Tessel and the Blazing Star, Manual of the Lodge page. So you see it right here. Like, you see the star and you see its radiation all around the edge of the lodge, right? See the radiation, right? Okay. Manual of the Lodge. Here then we find three emblems included in one, and I presume it is needed to add that these, like all the preceding ones, have been derived from old pagan temples and refer to an exceptional manner of the Sabian or star worship of the ancient Egyptians, where the mysteries were first practiced. In reference to Masonic pavement, Masonry teaches as follows. The mosaic pavement, consisting of stone of various colors, so disposed as to represent different shapes or forms, were common in the temple of the ancient, i.e., the temple of Baal. Fallow says that they represented the variegate face of the earth in the places where the ancient formerly held their religious assemblies. Manuals of the Lodge, page 94. But how did the blazing star creep into Freemasonry? And what lesson, if any, has it ever taught in the Masonic philosophy? Dr. Mackey, having already quoted John Fallows as good authority on Freemasonry, it will surely be pardonable in us to follow, for example, and learn what he has to say concerning the symbol among the early Egyptians. In his celebrated works, The Mysteries of Masonry, pages 14 and 15, he alludes to the Masonic emblems as follows. I will here remark that the Anubis or dog star, so useful to the ancient Egyptians, is the blazing star of masonry. And although the craft are ignorant to the origin as the Masonic symbol, yet they are actually taught the moral drawn from the original emblematic use. Webb, in his monitor, says the mosaic pavement is emblematic of human life, checkered with good and evil, and beautiful bordered with the surrounding borders which surrounds it, is emblematic of the blessing and comfort which surrounds us and which we hope to obtain by faith, reliance on divine providence, which is hierographically represented by the blazing star in the center. This symbol is particularly, if not exclusively, applicable to the Egyptians who inhabited the Delta and who, by placing a reliance upon warning proverbial given by this star, and in consequence retiring to the higher ground with the produce of their agricultural might, enjoy the comforts that surround them. Situations of the lodge. The Masonic ritual prescribes that every lodge must be situated due east and west in this custom. Right? Like all other customs, symbols and ceremonies of the institution has been derived from the situations of pagan temples in ancient sun or Baal worship, as is evident from the following explanations. Manuals of the Lodge, page 55. The orientation of the lodge or their position east and west is derived from the universal customs of antiquity. The heathen temples, say Dudley, were so constructed that their length was directed towards the east, and their entrance was by protocol at the western front, where the altar stood, so that the virtual approaching of and for the performance of religious rites directed their face towards the east and the quarter of sunrise. The primitive reason for this custom undoubtedly is to be found in the early prevalence of sun worship, and hence the spots where luminary first made his appearance in the heavens was consecrated in the minds of his worship as a place entitled to particular reverence. Masonry retained in its symbolism and typical reference of the lodge to the world, and constantly alluding to the sun to a in his apparent diurnal revelations, imperatively requires, when it can be done, that the lodge should be situated due east and west, so that every ceremony shall remind the mason of the progress of that luminary. How strangely anxious the teachers of Freemasonry must be to establish the identity of Freemasonry with the ancient mysteries when it is imperatively required that even the very large room of the order must be situated due east and west because of a similar custom which obtained in the situation of pagan temples where the secret worship of Baal used to be formally practiced. All right, so we got that. That's the last chapter, okay? Before I get out of here, let me tell you once again, I am Juice Warner. This is Old York Gritty, right? Grand Strings. You can catch us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch. But one thing you should do is hit that like button, right? So that way I can see the love, I can get the love. And, you should hit the subscribe and you should hit that notification bell so you can constantly be notified whenever new content is either live or uploaded. Right? I also want to say thank you for being here. And I want to say, hey, don't forget, check out my book, Street Skelzy, Knock 'em Out the Box on Amazon Books and Lulu. This is a murder mystery about two brothers from opposite sides of the law who have to team up in order to find their father's murderer or murderers, forgive me, right? Been a while. I've been doing this for like a good 3 hours now. I'm getting kind of tired, but nonetheless, check out my book. It's a good read. I would appreciate it. Don't forget to comment. Don't forget to share this information, and don't forget, man, much appreciation, much love. Thank you. We up out of here. Right? Hold on. Let me take this down. Right? Pardon me. Hold on a minute here. See how slaves, see what type of stuff I got up there?